Goedemiddag allemaal en welcome at this State of the Sustainability Profession 2020. Sorry, this is a new setting. My name is Annette van Waning and I'm your host for today. We have an inspiring program with great guests. And this is the 5th edition of the State of the Sustainability Profession. And the follow-up of this good program is a high-level online peer-to-peer workshop. And later on this day, Elfrieke will tell you more about it. But at first, I want to tell you that we are with more than over 150 people, all sustainability professionals, managers, and other people eager to learn about sustainability. Wow. But to start with, a special welcome also to our partners, and especially to the Goldschmeding Foundation. And I want to introduce Brigitta and tell us something about the Goldschmeding Foundation and the circular economy.
Yes, well, thank you. I'm here on behalf of the Goldschmeding Foundation. We are a foundation which is predominantly looking at the inclusive labour market, circular economy, and the humane society. And we're very proud to be able to contribute to the skills and competencies of sustainability professionals. So today we will hear more about an additional research we've done, specifically focused on the competencies that are necessary to speed up the circular economy. Now, we supported this project because we feel that specifically the circular economy will change the way we work and even cooperate with each other. So the Netherlands, our companies, and specifically those who are in the audience today, play a leading role. And we've all seen the Circularity Gap Report, the Netherlands, which found that we are 24.5% circular. So there's quite a lot of work still to be done. And specifically, the sustainability manager can make that difference, because we feel that it's not just the technical innovation, but specifically the social innovation, learning from each other, being able to interact and even develop our skills that can really move that target. Now, I see this new role evolving, not just a sustainability professional, but also a circularity professional. And I'm very, very keen to hear the results and to see the interaction today. And hopefully also to involve you all in this research. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brigitta, for your explanation about the participation. And this day and also the survey would not be possible without our partners. And we would like to thank Pakhuis de Zwijger, Circle, 7 Rules and the Rock Group for working on it and facilitating all this event today. And now we start with our first program. And before we go to Carola, I also want to tell you today that we have a panel with professionals. But before we go there, Carola will tell something about her survey.
Well, thank you, Annette. Welcome, everybody. I'm very glad that you are here, as now, during and hopefully soon after COVID, is a crucial moment for business to lead the way in achieving a more sustainable world. As the discussion on a green and social recovery strategy after COVID is rising on the agenda, business as usual is no longer an option. More companies should therefore engage in sustainable strategies and implementation of these strategies. At the core, effective corporate sustainability leaders are key in this transition. In order to translate sustainability goals into actions and into success, companies need sustainability professionals equipped with necessary skills. However, our sustainability profession is still a young developing profession and most of us learn the job by doing. Therefore, at Sustainability University, we aim to further develop our profession and the skills sustainability professionals need to accelerate sustainable development in their organizations. This is why 3 years ago we started our survey among CSR and sustainability professionals so that we can monitor and detect trends in our common journey and learn from each other. Thanks to your participation in this survey, I can today proudly present the 3rd edition of the State of the Sustainability Profession Survey. In this 3rd edition, 93 respondents, mostly Dutch sustainability professionals in companies, participated. I will share with you the highlights of the outcomes of the survey, and our panel will reflect on the most important conclusions. The complete publication of the survey will follow in the coming months. In my presentation, I will use the terms CSR and sustainability interchangeable. Let's look at our profile. Our profile has not changed much over the years. We are highly educated professionals, mostly working in larger companies with an equal mix of juniors and seniors. Over the last year, our range of salary remains more or less the same. Our companies cover all sectors of our national industry. Being a CSR manager or director is still a lonely job, with a small or no team and position close to the CEO. However, we can determine one remarkable change in our profile over the years. In the last 3 years, we have seen a significant increase in the number of respondents that want to stay in our profession and have a reflective job description. In 2018, only 49% wanted to stay within CSR and 46% had a good job description. Although we need to accelerate sustainable development to achieve our sustainable development goals in 2030, this year's survey showed that we did the opposite. Instead of accelerating, we are slowing down, a trend that has started already before COVID. Between 2019 and 2020, we are not progressing as much as we did between 2018 and 2019. If we want to reach full integration of CSR in our companies by 2030, we should, however, at least improve with 1 full point every 3 years. When you dive deeper in embedding CSR in the different business processes, the same limited development is shown. However, we do see a positive change in comparison with last year that could be a tipping point to accelerate integration. This year, CSR is significantly more integrated in the marketing and sales activities and processes. Marketing and sales has therefore entered the top 3 of best integrated business processes next to the general management and public affairs. We also asked you more specifically about the integration of CSR in the underlying activities of 4 different key business processes. A diverse picture emerges with certain activities that are a step ahead of other activities in the same business process. For example, within finance, CSR is well integrated. For example, within finance, CSR is well integrated in the activities of business casing and reporting, or in procurement, CSR is well integrated in policy and selection criteria. Although this is absolutely a note on the bright side, it might also give these departments the false impression of having incorporated CSR fully already. If it comes to different sustainability topics that companies are working on, we see the same as last year that circular economy gets less attention than the topics climate and energy transition and social responsibility. However, social responsibility has catched up with climate and energy transition in comparison with last year. Also, it seems as if circular economy is on its way of catching up as well. Next to integrating CSR in our own organization, we should also integrate CSR in our value chain. Sustainability does not stop at the door of our companies. In contrary, to improve the integration of CSR, the focus on our complete value chain is necessary. We value the integration of CSR in our value chain with a 5.3. This is lower than the integration of our own organization, 6.7, that I just showed you, but is not less important. For most organizations, the impacts on society in the value chain is higher than in the organization itself. And for topics like circular economy, most changes have to be made with and within the value chain. In addition, we should not only look at our suppliers and customers, but also to the suppliers of our suppliers and the customers of our customers, if we really want to maximize our impact or create system change, such as needed for circular economy. Again, just like Brigitte said, we still have a long way to go. If we look at our roles, I have myself, while working as a CSO at the Dutch Railways, experienced how difficult it is to transform systems that have been in place for many years into climate neutral and circular systems. Based on my own experience and practices of other professionals and scientific research, the 7 roles method was developed. The 7 roles, further explained in my book, provide professionals a practical guide to successfully integrate CSR in the core activities of their organizations. Let's have a closer look on how we developed in these roles. Last year, we wanted to spend more of our time as strategist and innovator and less as coordinator and initiator. This year's survey shows that we did. We managed to decrease the gap between time spent and preferred time spent. One of the most important findings of this year's survey is found in the different working style of CSR professionals that integrated CSR fully compared to the professionals at companies that have just begun to integrate CSR. CSR professionals that are successfully in fully integrating CSR in their organization divide their time more equally between all the roles. In short, balancing all the roles leads to more sustainable success. Unfortunately, balancing the roles is not a trend that is emerging from the survey if you look at all the CSR professionals. Already for 3 years, we spent less time on the mentor and monitor role. And we also don't want to spend more time or develop in these roles. In addition, the survey shows that these roles are not yet being taken over by other departments. It is therefore advisable to focus more on the monitor and mentor role. The latter mentor role is also crucial in relation to other important findings of this survey. Whereas the stimulator inspires on an organizational level, the mentor role translates CSR to an individual functional level of workers. Spending more time as mentor will therefore not only balance the time divided between roles, but will also support the necessary further integration of CSR in the different processes. In short, if we want to jump to the 7 next year, we have to spend more time empowering others and proactively monitor and steer our progress. Next year, we want and need to step up. Let's jump to 7+. Spend more time on your mentor and monitor role and find better balance in time spent on all 7 roles, by you or by your organization. Focus on all key business processes and the underlying activities that are part of it. Broaden the scope of your value chain, and most of all, keep up the good spirits.
Thank you very much, Carola, for your presentation and your contribution. Now we have a great panel today with 3 experts in the field of sustainability. There is Jacobine Das Gupta, Sustainability Manager at the DSM. Gajanne van Arkel, former Sustainability Manager at Interface and nowadays a Sustainable Entrepreneur. And Dirk Bel de Vroe, Sustainability Manager at Stedin. Very much welcome and very nice that you are here with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We prepared some questions together because we want to reflect on the presentation of Carola. And I want to start with a question for Gajanne. Gajanne, we see that more and more sustainability professionals want to stay inside their company and also that their professions has good job descriptions. Do you recognize this from your formal job and now in the field?
Oh, absolutely. If you ask me, sustainability professionals are there to stay. If you would have asked me a few years ago, then I would have said, okay, the ultimate goal of a sustainability professional is to make him or herself redundant. But actually, I would say it's completely different. You actually have to develop your role, as Carola has written in her book, going along with the maturity of the organization, or even diversify depending on the division or department even. So sustainability professionals are there to stay.
Okay.
And more important, I think even they need to stay there to bring in the systemic perspective.
Okay, the systemic, yes. We come back to that issue later on this afternoon. Dirk, can you tell me something about what the important sign is in your company that the role is there to stay?
Yeah, definitely. No, I feel the same. I mean, when I first started, it was the same story about 10 years ago. And if you look at it now, even though we're seeing we're not going fast enough, it's being ever more integrated into the business, which means I can also develop as a person myself as well, because the role is expanding, it's becoming ever more complex. You need to work with many more people every year, other business units, other topics. So it's actually super challenging and very rewarding at the moment. So if I would need to answer this question personally, I'm definitely here to stay in this profession. And I also see a lot of young people moving in, so definitely, yeah.
Okay, that's interesting, because what we also see in the survey is that the CSR integration in the organizations is not improved a lot in the last years. We saw that in the sheet from Carola. Jacobine, can you tell me something about the situation at DSM?
Sure, I can. Thank you very much. Well, actually, I don't really recognize that, because I feel that we have planted the seeds in the years before, and we now see it really flourishing in different disciplines around the world. So people start to pick up their own initiatives and now, in fact, need a bit more mentoring or coaching and point at good ideas outside. So I think it's getting more and more hardwired and softwired, and people feel more confident and engaged.
Okay, thank you. Then Gajanne, do you see, because you're a professional in the field for a long time, do you see that organizations are a bit slowing down in their CSR maturity?
I wouldn't say that. I would argue that the topic is picked up in a broader perspective. So therefore, I would say that because of this diversified and spread of an inclusive approach of what sustainability actually means, it's actually more, I don't like to use the word difficult, but it's becoming more difficult or harder to really cover everything, which I think is the crucial thing to do.
Yeah, well, that brings us to the next insight also from the survey. And I want to ask it, Dirk. We see that successfully integrating CSR in the organization, well, we're getting there. We want to speed up, but we're coming there. But what we see is that integrating CSR in the value chain is more difficult. Well, I can imagine that within Stedin, that is also interesting, because you have a lot of chain partners with you. Can you tell us something about the difference between the organization and the value chain?
Yeah, definitely. No, it's a huge challenge for us. I would say our main impact is actually in the value chain and not within our own business operations. And we do not manufacture our own assets, so we're absolutely dependent on our value chain to deliver us sustainable assets, so to speak. So definitely a challenge. We do have some nice examples, though. We had the Fair Meter project. We were procuring our smart meters, and we wanted to do it in a more sustainable way. And it was actually the first time that we engaged with our suppliers and asked them to come up with the most sustainable format. And in the end, it actually worked out pretty well. It became a success for the supplier, it became a success for us, and it really translated into the organization. So you can see we now have a template set for procuring these kind of assets in a sustainable way within Stedin, and it also translated to other assets as well. So ring main units, transformers, cables, everything that we focus on to reduce material impact, reduce footprint, sort of benefits from that project, because people have seen an example that sustainability works. It's not necessarily more expensive. It's a creative process. And I think that these examples really help to accelerate this transition within Stedin. And I mean, examples can come from the supply chain. They can also come from inside your organization. Yeah. They're just as strong.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And from your enthusiastic reaction, what is the most inspiring part of your job?
Well, I really enjoy talking about the mentor role. So I think we might get there later on, but I think this supply chain approach, but also within Stedin, it's really my philosophy that a sustainable organization is an organization where everybody can translate this concept notion of sustainability into their own work. And I truly enjoy helping people sort of to set the mindset in a good way and help it translate into their daily operations. So it's definitely what I enjoy doing.
Yeah, okay. You mentioned already the mentoring role. We get back to that later.
Yeah.
But a bit to the strategic role from the CSR manager. Jacobine, I would like to ask you. We see that more time is spent on the strategic role. That was a major difference from last year. And we see that there is more and more balancing between the successes. What do you think about the importance of the strategic role in relation to the other roles?
The role is essential, because if it wouldn't be there, you would be doing anything. You really should have a good direction and a vision of where you want to go, and this should be done in alignment with the top of the company. So it's essential, and it depends a bit on the situation and the timing, how much time you need to spend on it. It's certainly true that you need to have that in place and that vision. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense, I would even say.
Can you tell us a bit about how you managed it at DSM? Because talking about the strategy of DSM and then integrating the CSR.
It's fair to say we are with a small team and we work in a network. So it's always a collective effort. It's always collective thinking and embedding. So I think that's first and foremost. And second, it's a continuous dialogue. It's also discussing dilemmas. So it's not everything drawn on the chalkboard. It's also created together. And that means that you discuss what would it mean to implement it in marketing and what would it mean to implement it in sourcing. And by getting to that level of detail, you really start to see it clear and you start to see that it might work.
Okay, thank you. Well, we're getting into the roles already, and we see that the role of mentor and monitoring haven't been the favorite for the past years. We don't spend much time, but we do want to develop it, or sometimes we don't want to develop it. But the question to Gaianne, can you tell us how important the roles are for the CSR professional to be a mentor and to be monitoring?
I think it's crucial, because what is measured gets done. Firstly, to be honest, monitoring was not my favorite role. So if it's not yours, then I would say partner up with colleagues in your organization who do like that role. That's what I did. So that worked for me, working together with the LCA specialist or with colleagues from finance or the quality department. The role I really loved was, just like Dirk said, was actually mentoring, because actually supporting people to discover what their passion is and how they can use their expertise to actually contribute to the larger goals of the organization accelerating the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals. That's really cool, because then you really see, you are really empowering people. Okay. And that's what I like to do now as well.
Thank you. Dirk, can you tell us something about your experiences with the mentoring role and the monitoring issues?
Yeah, I recognize your answer as well. The mentor role for me is something that I really cherish. I think we all see a huge challenge in becoming more sustainable. And sometimes that translates into pointing the finger and wanting to accelerate in a faster way than the company is able to follow. So in my mentoring, I also try to focus on especially how we work instead of just what we need to do. It's better to focus on the long term and make little steps than just distance everybody from yourself because you want to go too fast. So in that sense, the mentoring role is super, super important. The other role, I really recognize it as well. It's not my favorite role either, but I teamed up with finance and control. And now, since last year, we have the numbers ready because we're a relatively young company. We split up from Eneco in 2017, but we have the numbers now, which means for the first time we're able to actually see what's happening and steer directly into sort of solutions based on the numbers that we see. So it's evolving, and I'm focusing on the interpretation of the data, which is, for me, it's fun. Finance and control is really focusing on gathering the data and making sure it fits. So I see the collaboration working there since this year for the first time.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is a question from our chat stream is looking at the background and the education of the CSR professional. Well, when I started, and I know when Gianne and Jacobine started, there was not even an education on the university or whatever about sustainability. We just started from, well, almost somewhere. But nowadays you see more and more specific education in the field of sustainability. And the question is there still a place for people who are in the developing career, not from a sustainability education, to find a place in the sustainability field? What is your idea about it?
I would even say the better, because then you come from a certain background, like marketing or sourcing, and you bring already that expertise and that knowledge, and that makes you also more credible. And then you can learn the sustainability by extra courses or on the job. So I would say it's even perhaps a best route, if you ask me.
Okay.
I could say that at Interface, we actually always looked for the best engineer, the best designer, not necessarily the most sustainable one, because sustainability was what we brought to the table already. So just like Jacobine is saying, you know, bring in your expertise and make that sustainable. I'm a textile engineer originally, so
well, there we go.
You know.
Okay.
Yeah, no, definitely. Just to add to it, I think it's really important that, I mean, some backgrounds, some studies really develop yourself as a human instead of focusing on a certain profession. And I think to be able to do, to be able to have this sustainability profession, I think you're a connector. You need to understand people and be open to it and ask questions instead of just bring answers. And I think that as long as you're open to this, then you have a bright career in sustainability, if you ask me. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the next step in your organization regarding to CSR and the role of the CSR manager? Jacobine, what's the next step for DSM?
There will still be a group. If it's called sustainability, I don't know. But I'm convinced there's a small corporate group that can be a kind of antenna to the outside world and is embedded in the system and brings the outside in. And furthermore, I hope in many disciplines and many groups, there are self-propelling champions who are very cautious and know what to do.
Okay, wait for the DSM champions. Gianne, you're the entrepreneur now. What do you see?
Now, I would argue that it's really important also to have the local connection. So I fully agree that it's important to bring the outside in, but also indeed the link between global, local. That's what I at least left behind at Interface, that there is a more local connection. Also people who have the role of a sustainability ambassador, who are touch points for the organization locally, especially because the topic has broadened so much with circular economy and climate and the inclusive social dimension as well.
Thank you. Dirk, last but not least, very short reaction.
Yeah, so actually two things. Top-down, integrating it into our financial systems. Valuing sustainability in a way that is completely integrated. But I think least as important as that is telling the story, creating ambassadors, creating a movement, and enabling everybody to be able to translate this sort of big subject to their daily practices, because that's really going to move Stedin towards a sustainable organization.
Thank you. Well, this is the end of our panel reflection on the survey of the sustainability state of the sustainability profession. Thank you so much for your reflection. The next part is that we are going for the next item. It's an interview of Elfrieke van Galen and Jacobine Das Gupta. And I want to invite Elfrieke on the stage. And Jacobine, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Annette. I'll start with love you dearly, but I start with cleaning the table. Jacobine.
Hi.
Thank you. We have a dialogue, 10-minute dialogue. And what I would like to do is you've recently published a really nice blog on your 5 tips for how to become successful as a sustainability manager. So I like to focus on that, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, please do so.
I think that the article you wrote really came from your heart, right? And also from your experience. But before we go into the content, we like to get to know you better. You're a sustainability director of DSM Nutrition. What was life before DSM?
Life before DSM, I lived in Paris with my family, the new 2 teenage daughters. And before that, I also studied industrial design engineering and worked in business development, in R&D and in sustainability. So quite a broad background.
Before you went into sustainability,
yes.
You had different... Yeah. And well, at least I, as an outsider, I consider DSM an organization where sustainability is really mature, right? So, and you will probably move on one day to another job. Is then the organization already ready for what you just explained? No sustainability director left, or is that more for your grandchildren's future?
Good question. I like to build on what Gianne just said. As the company matures, also the role matures. And in DSM, it's a small team, and that small team evolves. And depends also a bit, indeed, where the company is. And at the start, it was very much risk management, monitoring, reporting, and flagging what needs to be done. And now we are fortunately a few stages further, and we can really identify themes where we can create a measurable positive impact. So social, health, as well as environment. And that comes also with different roles. As Carola in her book wrote, you will be more a mentoring, an inspirator, and coordinator, and also work more intensely with business people, for instance.
When are you done?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's always something new. And
Never.
No, probably not. I would be very happy, and I also try to celebrate if we reach intermediate milestones. If we collectively said, we really need somebody dedicated in this group, we really want to launch a new project with a clear sustainability value proposition. And all these happy milestones together, they make the job so much fun.
Yeah. You shared 5 tips in your blog, and I hope you allow us to publish that also on the website, so then everybody can read it. It really inspired me. And your first tip is fuel your inspiration. Where do you get your inspiration from?
I wrote in the first place when I was pregnant of my second daughter, still living in Paris. I read something in The Economist. And it really struck me that companies were making good money by doing good. And they spelled it out how they did. And that really inspired me at that time. And I really thought I need to explore this further. So I also wrote a book 9 years ago. And I thought I need to be in such a job because that's quite exciting. And what I since do is indeed searching for people who are knowledgeable, are thought leaders, and reading books to stay inspired, because if I really feel a kind of responsibility to drive this agenda.
So the article in The Economist was, let's say, was that a kind of a wake-up call? Could you say it that way?
It probably came at a good moment.
At the right moment.
Good moment, and I thought, you know what? That's also what I can do.
And you felt this is perhaps my path in life.
Yeah, let's explore. What I can do here. Yeah.
Thank you. Then another tip in your blog is engage with business, but radically engage.
Yes.
What is it? How do you do that?
Radically engage with business, that you really have to jump in that swimming pool. And you should not just read the brochures and think, maybe we can tweak a little bit left and right. You really need to understand. I've worked myself in marketing and sales, so I know what it is to make your marketing plan and manage your sales funnel, but you really need to get under the skin and really understand what makes them awake at night, what also triggers them. And actually those marketing and sales people, they are the ears and the eyes of the company, and they know what's happening in the sector. Because sustainability means so much different in the food and beverage, personal care, automotive. It's really different.
So you jumped in the pool of marketing and sales in DSM, right? Without No, that's not the case. You knew you could swim, right? Because you had worked in that profession.
Other temperature water, but
exactly.
I could swim.
Other temperature, other pool, but you knew you could swim. There are other functions in DSM nutrition, I imagine, like R&D, operations. Did you also jump in their pool?
Absolutely, that's needed, especially.
But without that background.
That's true. Partly, but then you have this monitoring role. You could work with everybody and say, so what's your next challenge? Where can you head? If you want to stretch in the next 5, 10 years, what can you achieve? And then for innovation, for instance, you can tune your new products towards certain societal issues or monitor along the pipeline. So you can define together how many of the new projects will be geared up and how can you monitor. In sourcing, you can identify what are criteria to select suppliers or to make proactive projects. For instance, low carbon raw materials or circular projects. And so in every function, then you need to work with them, and you can do that together, of course.
Yeah, and having worked in marketing, is it then easier to tune in with the marketing guys than, for example, with the sourcing and operations people? Or did you take a different approach there?
It's a good question. Well, I'm also an engineer by education from Delft University.
That might help.
So I'm a little bit also blue. So I can also be more on the calculating side. But indeed, the disciplines where you're coming from are more easy. You need to be a bit more deliberate and careful with the others. But you can't not do without. You need them all. But I would say marketing and sales are key. Because if the people in the business don't see it, it will never fly.
And because they see it, because the customers see it, or the client sees it, and then it starts flying.
Yeah, or the customer of the customer. Yeah,
I get an idea of a new role, Carola. Not all the roles we have, but more being a chameleon and going from process to process and adjusting yourself towards that process. And then you have 5 tips, but the last one I like to express, if you allow me, in French. But that's you put it in French. Frappez toujours. Who are you beating? With what and why?
I would say it's a friendly beat. It's a very gentle beat, but it's repeating notably. Because you cannot expect everybody in the organization to have top of mind the key societal issues or the mission statement or the criteria. So it's in a way you need to repeat it, package it, keep it very simple. Also demonstrate progress. So find a way in a funny, informal way to see, listen, we said we would go there and we're making progress. And then make it very practical and operational. And that's different in the different business disciplines. And that's to be done more in workshops or town halls.
You keep on repeating it, frappez toujours. How to avoid that if I meet you in DSM in the hallway, I think, oh, there's Jacobine, there she goes again, right?
That is a good question. Yeah. I don't think it comes logically.
It's not happening.
It's fortunately not so much happening, no. And it's also people like that you start with a certain foundation, that you're not all over the place.
Your foundation.
The foundation of the company or of the team, that you repeat a few starting points.
Instead
so people
of going all over the place.
Exactly. So I think most of the times it's seen positively so far.
Thank you. Thank you for this interview. And unfortunately, we couldn't discuss all your 5 tips, but I advise everybody to read your article. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And I invite Annette again on stage with her cleaning doekje.
Thank you, Elfrieke and Jacobine, for this interesting interview. I have to clean this.
Yes.
So,
you
can throw it on the floor. That's what they told me. Thank you so much for the contribution again. We are now ready for the next part of this event. And I give back the word again to Carola. And she will present a deep dive in the results of the study about the circular economy. Carola, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Annette. The challenges to reach a circular economy, in short CE, are numerous. The Circularity Gap report that Birgitta already mentioned in the introduction shows that the Netherlands is currently almost 25% circular, and a major transformation of the national economy will be necessary to achieve the governance goal of 100% in 2050. As backbone of our national economy, existing companies play an important role in this transformation. An increasing number of front-runner companies have already started to adopt circular business models and strategies. However, to translate models and strategies into impact, it comes down to the people who work in these companies. Last year, we started a study to learn more about the profile and behavior of circular economy professionals or change agents that work in companies that prove to be successful in their transition to CE. For this study, we have received the support of the Goldschmeding Foundation, and next to the analysis of our survey among CSR professionals, we have been working with HR experts on competencies and a group of successful CE professionals. When you dive deeper into the results of the survey and compare the professionals working at a group of companies that incorporated CE to a large extent and fully with the professionals working at companies that have just begun or partially incorporated CE, there are some distinctive features to be seen in these two groups of professionals. Not surprisingly, companies that have incorporated CE to a large extent and fully also have a high level of CSR integration in general for the other sustainability topics, and also have a high level of CSR integration in the value chain. Very specific for this group of CE professionals is that they spend a relatively great deal of time in the innovator role and divide their time more equally between the roles in comparison with their peers that work at less mature companies. Moreover, one of the most important findings of this deep dive was that our assumption that the integration of CE in an organization is different from the integration of the other sustainability topics like climate, energy, or social topics is absolutely correct. The survey reveals that integration in all business processes is needed in order to integrate CE fully into your company. In short, at an organizational level, if a company wants to translate its circular strategy into action and incorporate CE fully, professionals in all business processes and not just a few have to integrate CE in their activities. At a professional level, however, a successful CE professional also needs specific distinctive skills. At the start of our research last year, we asked you in our survey to choose the 3 most effective competencies to accelerate circular economy. The big winner was system thinking, followed by foresight thinking and management and entrepreneurship. This year's survey and peer-to-peer learning among CE experts confirmed the results of last year, with the difference that interpersonal skills were mentioned as interrelated skills that are also very important and cannot be seen separately. Fortunately, when we asked you, the 93 CSR professionals in our survey, they consider themselves more effective in these 4 key competencies than in the other traits of the general CSR profile, next to the important personal quality of being value-driven and motivated. However, at the same time, we did discover that the interpretation and definition of system thinking vary amongst the professionals. Even within our own group of CE experts, different ways to describe system thinking were used. In addition, the HR experts confirmed that system thinking is new and not yet part of the standard set of competencies or offered as a training. Systems thinking is neither common in recruitment, assessment, or management development. So what is system thinking in the context of accelerating the transition to full CE integration in companies? It means that you understand the interdependency between systems and subsystems in your company and in your value chain and in society, You understand the complete system, their relations and interaction, are able to zoom in and zoom out continuously. You will look for the root causes of non-circularity and are able to change, monitor and adapt several aspects in the system to reach your goal. That sounds very complex, but let me give you a simple example. Suppose you want to lower the waste of coffee cups. You might think the solution is to replace your disposable cup with an organic compostable cup. However, this will not change anything if you do not also change the waste bin, the container, the logistics of waste, and instruct the facility team to collect cups separately. And even if you do all that, you are still not reaching your goal until you are sure the industry can process your organic cup into organic resources and there is a market for it to buy it. So you have to understand the complete system in order to know what aspects need to change. Surprisingly, if you do understand the system well, it's often not necessary to act on all these aspects. Sometimes, when you change the most restrictive aspect, everything else in the system changes as well. To conclude, a very specific distinctive feature for accelerating CE integration in organizations is that it asks for significantly more integration in all business processes. In other words, the CE professional cannot do it alone. If we want to speed up and have more companies play an important role in the transformation to a circular economy, we should not only focus on the skills and competences of a CE professional, but also on the other business professionals. They have to start doing things differently and be trained to integrate CE in their specific business processes, such as procurement, product design, finance, marketing, and so on. Let's start with the most important CE competency, system thinking. It's a new way of thinking and acting for most professionals. So now that we have a definition, ask yourself again, do I need to train myself in system thinking, or do I make sure it is offered to my peers in my company? Not just CE professionals should ask themselves, but also the other professionals. No matter what profession you have, to know that you are part of a system and to know what you should do in your profession to make it circular or sustainable is crucial to accelerate CE and to achieve our goal. Your first step could be joining our workshops in September and November.
Carola, thank you very much for those interesting insights, and also that we discovered together a new role, the system thinking role of the CE professional and the sustainability manager and professional. And we're here back again with our professional panel. Let's see how you feel about the presentation and the survey. Dirk, I'd like to start with you. We see that compared to social energy, CE is not that integrated in the organization yet. Can you tell us something about your own experience?
Yeah, definitely. And I would like to start by swearing to all people present that I was thinking about a solution to this question before I've seen the presentation from Carola, because my main answer would be systems thinking, actually. So the biggest challenge at Stedin to catch up on this subject is to integrate it as a whole. So, for example, now we have a KPI for circular procurement. So that's, let's say, the beginning of the chain. We focus on our operations by sort of reducing the amount of assets that we use and prolonging lifetime. And we focus on end of life. But these things are all managed in a different way by different business units, by different KPIs and different moments in time within the organization. And what you see is sort of a lock on one aspect of circularity instead of a company approach that focuses on the circular economy. So I would say approach this as a system would be a very good place to start.
Okay. Jacobine, DSM is a big company worldwide. Mm-hmm. How is CE integrated within the DSM company already?
The circular economy is an absolute important, especially for our materials business. So we provide plastics to automotive and electronics, for instance. So we try to extend the lifetime, we try to reduce the resources, and we try to increase the number of recycled or bio-based content. And that's now integrated in some ambitions of specific business groups and also integrated in the innovation expertise. On the food system side, where I'm working now mostly, it is very true that you cannot design just a new food product with what's healthier if you're not thinking about how to create demand and not how to think about what consumers would think about. So it is really a systems approach, and that's what we try to bring in across the organization. But there are some steps to go, of course.
Okay, thank you. Then I would like to ask something to Gianne. And for me, you are the CE specialist, because when I don't understand anything about it, I always think, ask Gianne, because you always have the answer and the solution for me, and especially. When we look for accelerating the circular economy within the company and with the companies to support all of the business professionals, can you give an example of your own experience?
Absolutely. Just go out in nature and have a look around. So
this is what I mean.
That's where I get my answers from. So now my secret is gone. Now, if I look what we did at Interface was really approaching this system thinking in a way that it's accessible for everyone. Because sometimes people feel it's complex and therefore difficult. And for us, when Interface decided that they want to run their business, before I joined even, as nature does, they actually summarized those lessons in very practical, tangible fronts, as we call it. We want to run a business without waste, with renewable energy, with healthy materials, in closed loops. But you also need to use materials which are as much as possible locally available. But therefore, indeed, you need everyone in your organization, as was already part of the result. And you need to find other ways of working together. New partnerships, new ways of doing business, other business models. And therefore, for me, thinking about systems is really, it's crucial to not only work from this perspective inside your organization, but really go out and find collaborations with other sectors, because the most interesting developments, whether it's a new product or a better, smarter circular process or a new business model, for example, fishing nets for the Interface carpet tiles were all co-created and co-innovated in partnerships with other organizations.
Okay, thank you. Well, what's interesting is that because of the idea there was to start a survey on the role of circular economy in the profession of the sustainability manager, it is great that Goldschmeding Foundation said, well, we support you in the research. Otherwise, we did not have this insight in a kind of a new role for the CSR professional. And I'm interesting, Dirk, we are talking here about the CSR professional. We talk about the system thinking. Is the system thinking also something the other professionals in the organization are aware of? Or is it something completely different from the moon?
Well, yeah, it's a good question. I think they're aware of it because of a lot of the issues or challenges that we're trying to solve. They come from not being able to have a systems view. But I think we're really struggling in getting to terms with it. If you just look at one side of circularity within Stedin, the procurement side, you see a completely different role for a procurement officer than before. He's now sort of managing the whole process. He's getting into a relationship with the supplier instead of just saying, I want a certain essence for a certain price. We're talking about long lifetimes. And this procurement manager also needs to understand, let's say, the end-of-life considerations for a certain product. He needs to have contact with the people within Stedin that operate that side of the business. So it's and we are struggling with it. So we're seeing it, but at the same time, it's difficult to think in this whole chain within the organization instead of sort of the pillar that you're used to work in. So it's I think it's sort of a little bit from both. Yeah.
The keywords are system, networking, integrated thinking. Gianne.
Yeah, and building upon what Dirk is saying, that's what we are used to do and trained to do, to focus and to zoom in. But actually, therefore, because of that, you are limiting your own solution space. The moment you start to zoom out, you actually see other solutions. And then actually the perceived complexity is not that difficult anymore, because I would almost say the solutions come to life or become visible.
Can I add to that with just one more thing? That really, I always want to say it. I think there's a difference between circularity and circular economy. And circularity is sort of the technical side of it, and circular economy is the whole system that enables circularity to evolve. And I think whenever you enable the systems view, then you get into a circular economy movement, because you also integrate financial aspects, you get to business models that incentivize circularity. And as long as you stay focused within your own little piece of work, then you might get a little bit more circular, but you won't move towards a circular economy.
And Jacobine, when we look at the system, circular economy, it asks something from your organization. It asks different ways of working together. Did the circular economy thinking change the way you are working within DSM with your colleagues?
If you are okay, I would love to frame it as the systems thinking in general.
Yes, okay.
And I recognize that in different disciplines, indeed, workshop around plotting the ecosystem of a product, who are the suppliers, the customers, everybody around, becomes an integral part. So in new innovations, it's really something that we try to do always, and that's always done cross-functional. So not only the people who are developing the product, but with the marketing and the sourcing. And that has already made some clicks, indeed, reaching out to specific partners, thinking about consumer organizations, about governments, because they seem to be the obvious partner. If you zoom out, sometimes it really becomes pretty clear what is the best solution. So I see indeed those type of interventions as signals that the change is on the way. But I could confirm that more training and insights on this topic would be very much appreciated.
All right. And the final part for this panel is, what is your most excellent tip looking at circular economy and system thinking? Geanne.
Oh, for now, this decade, it's the decade of action. So use the Sustainable Development Goals as a systemic approach. So if you are able to work on positive impact on a number of them, also make sure that you don't have negative impact on any of the others. Easy.
Okay. Dirk, what's your
it's a big question.
Golden tip?
I would say ask questions instead of force answers. I think the open approach is something that we all need in order to sort of create some space for each other's solutions. And I think that might get us in the right direction.
Okay. Jacobine, what's your ultimate tip?
Picture the world you want together with everybody, because that will keep you the North Star, and you will need to know, you know where to go. So I think often we forget, and but if you craft it together, you say, we really would like to achieve that, then it gives you always inspiration and direction.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for all, Geanne, Dirk and Jacobine, for your contribution to this event, and also a bit looking inside your profession and inside your thinking and how you perform in your daily life. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are going for the next part of this event. And it is a presentation by Elfrieke van Galen, and she will tell us all about sustainability after COVID-19.
Thank you, Annette. Audience, are you still there? We are here in the Pakhuis de Zwijger studio. We don't see the daylight. It's probably beautiful weather. Not sure if you're still there or enjoying something outside on a terrace, but then perhaps you will see it later on because everything is filmed today. Why a presentation on sustainability after COVID? Well, I think we're in the middle of it. As we see here, normally we had an event. We have an event with a lot of networking, peer-to-peer learning, etc. And now we're only 6 of us here in the studio. And well, I think we're in the middle of COVID. So let me share my thoughts. What I would like to do is to invite you, the audience, if you have additions to what I'm saying, if you don't agree, if you have other suggestions, please put it on the chat. What we will do afterwards, we will integrate what you've said during my presentation in the slides, and we will publish that on the website. Halfway my slides, there is an Mentimeter question, so please be prepared for that. Let's start. If this works. Why COVID? We're in the middle of it, and what does it mean for our work? Yeah, there you see the Mentimeter code. We are in September. What's ahead? I think what we are seeing is that business resilience is in general limited, right? We see major financial support to business, EU countries. Recovery is often unconditional. The next phase is often conditional. Economic recovery is next to health. Supply chain became evident. Some business benefits from COVID. Let's not forget that, especially e-commerce, retail in general. And in my view, the end of this pandemic is not yet in sight. And what will business look like post-COVID? I'm receiving a lot of scenarios and information from, let's call them the traditional consultancies. And they provide scenarios for post-COVID business society. And they all focus, in fact, on two elements. How long will this extreme situation carry on? And what will be the economic downturn? Will it be a V, a U, or an L shape? And which sectors are affected most? That's what I read in their analysis. And on the other hand, and I also heard Carola saying that in the start of her speech, we see a lot of pleas for a more sustainable world and economy, and it's now the time to change. Yeah, but in general, there are known worldviews. We know the worldviews, and of course, we couldn't agree. I think, as we are all here in the studio and in the audience, we couldn't agree more that we would like to go that more sustainable world. But the question is, how do we get there? How do we get from here to there? And I can't see the chats, but I'm sure that the chats are saying now, don't forget, we had some positive sustainability effects as of in the COVID crisis. Yes, of course, I live close by Schiphol. It was beautiful airs. It was clean. It was, Carola's laughing because I worked for KLM, but no, Carola, I really love the blue, clean, quiet airs, water. We've all seen that, but it's there to stay. That's the question. Some things will stay, at least in my opinion. Huh? I think we really all realize now that local risk can become or are global risks. Huh? I think there will be and will stay an increased focus on health and food systems, remote working, easiness of global teams like we hear today, 150 participants all over the place. Offices get a new purpose, place to work is gone, it's a place to meet. Supply chain, I think that will stay. The risk we've seen in supply chain, the risk assessment will come up. For sure, a ban on trade in exotic animals and digitalization, that's also really reached the tipping point. That's there, in my view, that's there to stay. Yeah, but is this enough? Are that enough elements to move to a more sustainable future, more sustainable economy and society? Or at least, would this be enough to avoid pandemics in the future? Well, that depends. That depends, I think, in what we together consider the root causes of COVID. Yeah? So I would like you to take a moment, go to the Mentimeter and fill in 2 words where, in your view, the 2 words represent the root causes of COVID. And when the Mentimeter is filled, I will share you my thoughts. So let's see if there's an... can you see it also filling up now? Yeah, there it's coming. Globalization is really big. Yeah, globalization with S and Z. Yeah. Is there more? So overkill consumption, disbalance with nature, globalization. Yeah. Oh, sorry, in the mic, excuse me. Overpopulation, harming nature, control, resource exploitation, society invading nature, fear, pride, travel, natural habitat loss. I've done this this talk also with sustainability managers and the business leaders, and also with the group of women entrepreneurs, I can tell you that the outcome of this question was quite different than what we see here. Let's thank you, audience. Let's go back to what I think, in my opinion, are the effects, the root causes of COVID and the pandemic. Of course, I fully support what you're saying. One of the sources is globalization and travel, people meeting, traveling across the globe. And also, let's not forget the wet market in China and Africa. But in my personal opinion, root causes are, and I also see them in our word cloud, habitat destruction, climate change, rising inequalities, perhaps. And the next question is, if that are the root causes, why are we doing that? Is perhaps the underlying issue that we have a distorted relationship with nature, that we consider ourselves better than other species, that we're not part of the ecosystem, but that we're a side of it? Could that be one of the underlying issues of the root causes? I don't know. I wish we would know it. And I think you probably all saw last week that the World Life Fund came out with their 2-yearly Living Planet report. And there they are saying that biodiversity is being lost at an alarming rate, resulting in devastating forest fires, extreme weather, and further pandemics. It's not my word, it was World Life Fund. And World Life Fund calls for nature's our ally, not our enemy. But discussing topics like this, nature, biodiversity, ecosystems, pandemics with business is often quite difficult. And why? I think because it's difficult to see if our business has a relation with nature. Gianne just referred to it. Is there a relation with nature? Is our business, the business we're working in as a sustainability professional, is that depending on nature, ecosystem services, or perhaps is it impacting it? So my call to action today at the 5th edition of the sustainability profession is please check at least if there's a dependency or impact of your business on nature and ecosystems. In my view, that would really help in order to start tackling the root causes of the pandemic we're in today. And perhaps you remember that we also asked a question in the survey. And the question was very simple: is COVID making your work easier or not? Huh? And you see the results here. For the majority, it made our work more difficult. 30% no difference. But 15% it made it easier. Okay, how come? Well, we learned, again from the survey, that there's a correlation between the level of maturity in the organization and in the value chain of sustainability of CSR. So the more CSR is embedded in the organization, in the value chain, the less COVID is hampering us to do our work. Isn't that interesting? I found that very interesting. So I would like to translate that in a second call to action, in fact. And here we see it again. Yeah. Second call to action. So please, when you're not doing it yet or where you're hesitating, go on further embedding CSR in all your processes in the business. Because I think this survey shows it will make your work more resilient to pandemics. And my personal addition is, in general, I hope, but at least to pandemics. We have not researched the relation between economic effects of COVID on your organization. Because quite often discussing COVID with sustainability managers, there is a discussion on, yeah, but it's very difficult right now because the company I work for is in an economic crisis. There's no money, there's nothing left for me to do. So we have not researched that. Yeah? But I personally think that also there's a relation that the more sustainability is embedded in your organization, the better it will sail through the waves of economics upsides and downturns. So another call to to go on with the embedding. And we have not researched it, but we thought let's think about it because it came up so often in the discussions we have. It depends where you are in your organization. If you have sustainability 100% embedded and there's a positive economic effect on your business, you are in retail or online commerce or whatsoever, then in fact there's no excuse left not to leapfrog to full system thinking, which we just discussed in the circular economy deep dive. On the other hand, if you're on the under right quarter, if there's a positive effect, but you haven't embedded sustainability yet, you're there to start, well, there's no excuse not to kickstart. So please kickstart. And if you fully embedded, but you are in an economic downturn as a business or as a sector, and management is reviewing the strategy, you're fully embedded, yeah, then you're part of it. Huh? And then in the corner, when in a downturn and it's not embedded and it's not on the agenda, our suggestion is just wait until ties come up again and then go for it and learn from your peers, for example, on the workshops, which we will organize in the coming months. So the next steps is, I hope you've liked this presentation, that you've added your suggestions on the chat. We will integrate that and we will send you the presentation and publish it on the website. And to summarize, the 3 calls to action from my contribution is, make sure you further embed CSR sustainability in the organization to make your work more resilient. Check and scan the relation with nature and biodiversity of your business, both sides, impact and dependency. And last one, if you are in an economic upside with your business, please leapfrog or kickstart sustainability. Thank you very much. And then we are approaching the closure, so I invite Annette to the stage. And Carola, the audience can't see it, but you're hiding behind the plant. Why don't you come up as well? It's with a doekje.
With a doekje?
Yeah, it's not on the...
Yes, you stay there.
I stay here. Okay, then you have your own doekje. It's not on the schedule, but I thought you were so hidden. Please
Very
join.
Okay.
Annette.
Thank you so much, Afrika, for your insights. And when I was listening to your presentation, all the insights, I thought we never thought something like this could happen, or, well, it happened. And then looking at how it affected also the role of sustainability managers in the whole organization is, well, a kind of of course, it's an accident, but also helping the sustainability manager to get a more important position within the company. We also saw that circular economy is getting a new role. Do you experience that this COVID pandemic also strengthened the sustainability manager in his professionalism in the company?
Yeah, I hope so. I think in the previous panel, I think it was Jacobine said, develop this antenna for new things, right? Huh? Because, you know, for a lot of us, COVID came as a surprise. But it was mentioned, not COVID, but pandemics on the World Economic Forum in the beginning of this year as one of the 10 risks, global risks. Yeah? And also the Lancet, that's a magazine for, you know, that one for health professionals, right? Scientific magazine. Already 5 years ago, they published what are the effects, the human health effects of climate change. There were 5. One of them was a pandemic. Yeah? So I think this antenna role, what can happen, I think this pandemic really shows how important that antenna role is in our role. Yeah.
So all the sustainability managers needed the program of the Lancet, I guess.
Yeah, well, you can't, of course, you can't read all the scientific articles around the world, but, you know, be open, come out of your company, just follow, trends.
Okay.
Especially trends which are not yet part of the societal debate, because everybody's reading newspapers, everybody knows that, but the next trend.
Okay.
Yeah, we call it early issues.
Early issues, yes.
Early issues, okay. Carola, we started with your presentation about the survey. 5 years ago, there was the first part. Then you started developing, and you started with your book. Did you ever thought there would be a new role added to the 7 roles which there are already, namely the role as a CE professional? Or is it not a specific role?
It's not a specific role. What you see is that the profile of a CE professional is different, but for the CSR professional and the CE professional, really holds that they will be more effective, more successful if they balance all 7 roles better than they do right now. Okay. So that's the similarity. However, the profile, so the specific competences that you need, the skills, are different from a CSR professional if you compare it to a CE professional.
Okay.
Particular system thinking, where we were talking about today. Yeah.
And is system thinking then one of the things the sustainability professional also needs to develop?
Well, if you look at our survey, there were like 93 professionals who claimed that they were already quite effective in system thinking. But then we asked further, what do you think system thinking is? What's the definition? What do you do in your daily job? What's your behavior? What's effective? What's not effective? Then we found out that it was really, there was a lot unknown, and there were many different definitions of system thinking. So, and then when we talked with the HR experts, we learned that this is really a new competence. So, well, I described it in my presentation, what the competence is. And if we would ask now the 93 CSR professionals, I wonder what their answer would be.
Okay, well, after today, they all say it's important. I hope so. Well, and what I also see is that being a CSR professional, it's still the Chinese circus act with all the skills putting it in the air.
Yeah.
And if you look at what is happening for the coming year, we know we can't look in our the big ball, but what might be the next hot topics for the coming years?
Afrika.
One aspect what we see more and more, but that's for certain companies, that's attention for international companies, attention between the continents.
Okay.
For example, companies in Europe with headquarters in the USA or the other way around, that the words we use and the ambitions we have, that they're not similar. We're not all moving in the right direction. And how to deal with that? And one of the workshops with Annick Mauser in October will deal with that tension.
Okay.
Huh?
Yeah. And I would, if I can add to that, I would say the next step is to bring it to the other business processes. So not just, the CSR manager is the corporate change agent, but they cannot do it alone. So we really need to involve the other business process and pick up that mentor role and empower your colleagues to bring sustainability further. Because we saw in this research that we are slowing down. Yeah. And while we should be accelerating.
Okay.
So this is my
How do we
call
accelerate?
for the audience.
The call to action.
Really.
Yeah.
We should accelerate, because we really have to make, I want to stand here next year and tell everybody that we moved up to 7.
It also requires, I think, that was what Jacobine indicate, a deep dive in the processes of the other, right? Yeah. Last year's State of the Sustainability Profession in KIT, we did a special on how to speak the language of the CFO, because you really have to understand the other process and speak the language before you can start, I think, their mentoring and deep diving and embedding sustainability. So it really requires that insight.
When we started this event today, I already mentioned that we are online today, which is an innovation in itself. And of course, we
for
hope,
us,
and we hope to see everybody live next year. Yeah. But between now and next year, there's a long way to go. We have some peer-to-peer workshops in the coming period. Can you tell us a bit about those peer-to-peer workshops? Because that's we're trying to do the live events, because then it is important to promote it and to say that there you can be more and more professional.
Shall I start, Carola?
Yeah, you can start,
So normally for those viewers who are new to, let's say, state of the profession, normally we would have a nice lunch now and a lot of networking, and then we would split up into peer-to-peer workshops in order to learn from each other.
Yeah.
We have now solved that as follows, that the coming weeks there are 4 online workshops. You can book your tickets, although they seem fully booked. We will enlarge the audience so more can join. But I think it's very interesting also to see that there are 2 offline workshops focused on our CE research. And perhaps Carola, you want to elaborate there a little bit?
Yeah, well, I think it will be very interesting workshops in November. Because we're going to do a deep dive in system thinking, and moreover, in the November of 10th, there is this workshop where we also will publish our white paper, which is not only presenting the results of our survey, but of our entire project and all the learnings that we have. And we would like to, invite everybody to come and join us at the November 10th and share with us this exciting moment of launching the white paper.
Okay.
Yeah, where in fact everybody contributed to. I mean, it's not that
it's a joint effort.
Come to your own
joint effort, and we make sure it will be interactive.
Okay, very good. Well, then we're almost heading to the end of this afternoon and this event. I would like to thank again the panel. At first, you saw them earlier this afternoon, but especially thanks to Carola. You did a lot of work into the survey and also in the CE surveys. Elfrike for managing everything and also thinking and talking and giving us an insight in the COVID-19 issues, because focusing on comparing it to your own profession is always a challenge, and you don't think about it when you're in there, but when you're stepping back behind, then you see what's happening from your profession. So thank you also for that. This event was not...
And Annette, thank you for moderating it.
And you started in Dutch.
Yes, I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for that.
In Dutch as well.
Now, well, maybe we have a small one to end in Dutch.
Yes.
But before closing the event, I want to thank also our partners who made it possible. And it is, you see them also here on the sheets. Of course, Goldschmeding Foundation, we mentioned it a lot of times, but they helped us so much with finding out the system thinking and the role of CE. We see Pakhuis de Zwijger, where we are here as a guest today. The Rock Group helping us out, and also Circle for helping us with all the activities around it. And of course, 7 Roles, otherwise we were not here today.
Yeah.
So this is really the end of the event. It's always a challenge to do it in the right time, but we're managing to do it in time. It's a special day because in Holland we call it Prinsjesdag. The Dutch viewers know what is happening with the hats. Carola told me this afternoon that she tried to explain it to some students in the US. That was quite different. But I want to thank you everyone on this special day for visiting us and for being with us, and hope to see you next year in a very, very event where we see each other and can learn a lot from each other. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tot ziens.